Alright everybody, welcome back. I got a couple more of these deals to go over because people have been asking whether or not these Lightspeed tokens are worth it. What's my take on it? Is the value there? Those type of things. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover the 2 Lightspeed tokens that we currently have in the store. I think there's gonna be more, but they're gonna be different levels. I'm not entirely sure when those are coming out or how you get them. Let me go into the collection really quick here and see if we can go buy them. It says find available tokens. It's only the KYBER ones, so no matches, no way to get these. I think it's only on the episode tracks. Okay, so yeah, right now it looks like only the KYBER ones are available. So that's the Separatist Lightspeed token and the Tank Lightspeed token. So I'm gonna go ahead and discuss. It's less about the characters that are available. I'll discuss that towards the end. But what I kind of want to do is go over how I'm equating the values here, how I'm kind of assigning a value to everything, and give you an idea of like that baseline picture with the relics and the gear and stuff. And then you can go ahead and decide whether or not you want to invest that decision into one of the characters available. Okay, so to start, let me go off by saying that it's hard to value cash money, right? So 1424 here. If you're gonna spend money, I highly recommend you do it in the web store to get that 5% off, or well, rather in the game, in the PC client to get 5% off. Some people really like the Kessel Run. If you like the Kessel Run, that's fine. That's in the web store. You can get extra little bonuses in the web store for buying things through the web store, but you don't get the same discount that you do on the PC client. So it all depends how you want to spend that extra 5% or save that extra 5%, right? So in the web store, this will be $14.99 instead of $14.24. These are USD currencies. I am in America, so that's what we use. So it's hard to equate the values to that because it means different things to different people, right? $15 to somebody who makes $30 a month allowance is very different than $15 to somebody who makes $100,000 a year, right? Like disposable income being what it is. So it's hard for me to gauge whether you spend money on this game. I'm very rarely, if ever, going to tell you, probably never, that you should spend money on a mobile game, right? I'll tell you the value, and then you can decide whether or not you want to spend the money, but I'm never going to tell you to spend the money. So I will say that I do have some experience paying money in this game. I didn't for like the first 8 years that I played this game, but when the Lightspeed bundles first came out and it was $9.99 for most everything that I needed to go ahead and get Kylo Ren, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, I definitely took him up on that deal. It was one of the deals that was too good for me personally to pass up, right? So that being said, I don't tend to spend a lot in this game. I never buy crystals. That's not something I really do. I mean, short of Lightspeed bundles, and the episode pass, that's another thing that I bought. Those are like the only 2 things that I've bought in this game. So it's hard for me to place a value, but I'm gonna do my best, and I broke down it in a spreadsheet to give you some idea of what's happening here, okay? So first, let's go ahead and get into what a Lightspeed token is. It's not a Lightspeed bundle. For those of you who don't know what a Lightspeed token is it's a token on your account that you can go ahead and access. What it does is it sets the character to level 85, it puts them at Relic tier 5, and it puts them at 7 stars, so you don't need any more shards for them, okay? All the abilities go up to level 7. I believe that it specifically excludes Omicron and Zetas. We'll go ahead and look over here. Zeta and Omicron ability upgrades are not included, so that's something to keep in note. You're still gonna have to get the Zetas and the Omicrons for them. And then the requirements here, it's basically just giving you a list of the characters, or like what's a requirement for the characters to qualify for the Lightspeed token. Kind of confusing how to say that, but essentially it can't apply to these. I don't know if there's really too much of a reason to look at these while we have these like very short lists of characters. So because those aren't exclusive, right? You can't apply it to all separatists, you can only apply it to these separatists. For instance, I don't think General Grievous is a Galactic Legend. I don't think he's a Journey Guide unit. He's not a Conquest unit. He's not a Guild Raid unit, as far as I know. And he's not a Territory Battle unit. But yet, Grievous is not here. So, I don't know what these requirements really entirely serve, but they just tell you these ones won't be involved. But a lot of characters aren't involved. These are the only ones that are, right? I guess another one would be Dooku. Count Dooku's not here. Count Dooku's a Separatist. So, it's really just saying, like, these are the characters that you can apply to. I don't know how that looks if you don't have the characters unlocked. I think it would still show them. But anyways. So for the Separatist one, if you were to apply it to any of these characters, you would, right now, these are my current Relic levels. It would jump the character up to Relic tier 5. I already have them at 7 stars, so it wouldn't change anything about the stars. The abilities, I don't think would go up because I have everything pretty much omegaed out, and then it would not, it doesn't do anything beyond that, right? So there's no, it doesn't give me any shards if I have 7-star shards or 7 stars, 330 shards worth already. Doesn't do anything like that. Okay, doesn't give you extra credits if all your characters are at level 85 already. So it just sets the character to whatever this is. Okay, and again, it can only be used for these characters. The Lightspeed tank token, we'll go ahead and look at that real quick. It does a similar thing. It works exactly the same way. It's just it can be used for these characters. Okay, so the considerations that we have to take into account here are, what are we getting for our money ultimately? If I have the character at Relic 3, I'm going to get whatever it would cost me to go from Relic 3 to Relic 4 and then Relic 4 to Relic 5. So that's the maximum value I could get out of this token. For somebody that has it at Relic 1, they're going to get Relics 1 to 2, Relics 2 to 3, and so on, right? Then for a person that doesn't even have these characters unlocked, they're going to get 330 shards, plus all the gear to get them up to Relics, plus all the Relic levels. So these tokens have varying value depending on where you're at, which makes it kind of difficult to tell you whether it's worth it for you. So what I looked at mainly was the Chirotex, because some people will need Chirotex to go ahead and finish these characters off. I don't know for absolute certain, but I'm pretty sure that none of the characters these tokens work for are in the later era where we needed multiple hundreds of Chirotex in order to relic them. I think all of these characters only need 100 Chirotex in order to get gear 12 to Relic 0 or gear 13, right? So Chirotex we did factor in because it's like the last step before relics. People probably have these gold ringed, they have them at gear 12. Then I covered relic materials that you would need to get from gear 12, gear 13 to Relic 5, and then the signal data that it would take. Okay, so those are the only things I looked at. I didn't look at gear because gear is too disparate in terms of how much you need, how much it costs to get those certain pieces. And ultimately, I don't want to assign a crystal value to gear pieces because I don't think any of them are worth crystals. I don't think anybody should be buying gear with crystals personally, so I wouldn't assign a value like that to that. I just don't think it's worth it. I think you should focus on getting your gear other ways. If you don't have the character unlocked and you get it through the Relic Mat, through the KYBER tokens or the Lightspeed tokens, then maybe it's worth it a little bit more to you, but that'll be for you to decide. Understand that if you don't have the characters unlocked, you're getting a lot more gear, whatever that means to you. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the spreadsheet for a moment, and I'll explain further. Now, the biggest problem with determining, trying to get a baseline for the crystal value is that we have different levels of players here, right? We have people that spend $5 extra, for whatever reason. They just like, I got $5 extra, I'm gonna throw it on this game. Sure, so you're buying crystals at a much different rate than somebody who spends $100 at a time. So depending on what type of player you are, whether you're a $20, a $50, or a $100 player, that's going to dictate the crystals, the price of crystals, the value of crystals to you, right? So I have put out these different crystal values so that we can gauge what type of player you are. If you're somebody that buys satchels, then you're going to be over here, and you'll set that, and that'll adjust the price over here. If you're somebody that buys treasuries, we click the treasury button, and then it adjusts the price accordingly. Okay, so that takes care of that, gives you the idea of what each crystal costs. It ranges from 0.6 cents, so almost half a penny per crystal, to around 3/4 of a penny per crystal. Okay, now the things that we looked at, I did take into account shards to some degree. I put them on the list. However, shards range in value. It depends whether you're hard farming the shards or not. Okay, so we can get into a little bit in the individual characters to see where they're farmable and whether or not we should place a value on those characters. Because some are available in stores, they're very easily obtainable. You shouldn't spend anything crystal wise on them. They're just kind of basically free characters, right? Whereas some characters you can only do by hard nodes, and it becomes very difficult to farm them, and you have to sacrifice other things in order to farm them. So we'll take that into account when we get there. Again, Chirotechs, I took into account for 100, and then we have the circuit boards. This is how much it takes to get from gear 13 to relic 5, so on and so forth. For all of the different pieces, we have the relic pieces, and then the signal data. Okay, this is the crystal value that you would buy them from shipments. Okay, I don't value these things at that. I don't think they're worth it, but this is what you would have to pay if you said, you know what, I want B2 battle droid to be relic 5 today. This is how I'm going to do it, because I don't have any gear saved up. All right, that's what you would have to, that's the value this is looking at. If you arbitrarily decided that and wanted to do that. The crystal value here is the total cost, so it's the quantity times the crystal price, and then the weight price over here is what I would assign the value to, essentially. Signal data is the base default price for people that buy signal data out of the shipments. Again, I wouldn't do this personally, but I know some would, so that's kind of where this is at. But for a general baseline, I know even in-game players that buy signal data directly from the shipment, so that's where we're doing this. Okay, I'm being generous in terms of that to try to give it a picture of the value. We would multiply this by 0.8 to get a realistic value of what you should spend crystals on signal data for. But yeah, for the heat sinks, the transistors, bronzium wire, carbonite circuit boards, I wouldn't spend any crystals on this really. I know people are at different stages of the game and they might have more value to you. That's fine. I just think that people really shouldn't be spending crystals on this, because there's much easier ways to get them, and you can check out my farming relic mats here. It's a guide on how to get every single one of these pieces and where I think is the most efficient way to get them. You can check out that for a full guide. But long story short, I used to buy the carbonite circuit boards, but I've never in this entire history since relics began had a problem with bronzium wirings, transistors, or heat sinks. So carbonite circuit boards, while I was farming Chirotechs, I wasn't farming Lightside 1D. You could do Lightside 1C too, but Lightside 1C and Lightside 1D, if you just farm that for a week with your normal energy, don't do crystal refreshes, don't do energy refreshes, then you'll get a ton of circuit boards. Probably as many as you need for whatever your current character that you're trying to take to relics is. So for that reason, I don't really place a value on them. I purchased them previously in the past, but looking back, I kind of wish I had those crystals from the 500 crystal relic packs. But if you do it, you're getting them for about 3.5 crystals per circuit board, essentially, depending on if you get lucky, right? Bronzium wirings, I don't know what the value of those is on the 500 crystal packs. I've never done it. I've never had a problem with bronzium wirings. Essentially, I'll go ahead and quickly tell you where to get bronzium wirings, transistors, and heat sinks, just so you don't have to go watch a whole nother video. I do recommend the video, but just so you don't have to watch a whole new video to figure that out, let me go ahead and tell you how I've never had a problem. Go into shipments. You want to go into the guild activity store right here and look for the 3 spaces right before the character shards in the guild activity store, right? So this is guild activity tokens. You get these, or guild tokens. You get these every day for challenges and things like that. Whatever the daily or the daily guild challenges. And if you buy anything MK3, 4, or 5 that is blue or green, that translates directly into bronziums. You buy those things every day, it completely solves your bronzium problem. It should. Everybody that actually gets on this program and starts doing that tells me their bronzium problem goes away. And I've never had a problem with bronziums. If you want chromium transistors to go away, you just buy this one piece right here. This MK7 Blast Tech weapon mod. That's the only piece you need. You get 10 full pieces every time you buy the shipments, like 150 of this currency. And that'll solve your chromium transistor issue. These things, you don't buy them from here. You buy them down here, scroll down all the way to the bottom-ish, before the character shards that you see here. And then you buy these MK3 CNR holo projectors, 125 for 1625. You craft full ones. It takes 20 pieces to craft a full one, and then you translate those into heat sinks. Never had a problem with heat sinks. So those relic mats are completely solved by those little pieces, right? So as you can see, thousands of carbonite circuit boards, thousands of bronzium wiring, thousands of transistors, and thousands of heat sinks. Okay, so the pieces that you get from Lightside 1C and 1D are these pieces. As you can see, they just stock up. I don't do normal energy refreshes. This is just naturally accruing energy, okay? Bronzium wirings, as you can see, I have everything else locked, and only these pieces that drop in that store are there. And there's, I mean, thousands more. I'm just hoarding them, right? You see the rate at which these translate, it's pretty good. So you shouldn't have a problem once you start farming those. It'll take some time for you to farm those because you haven't been, but once you do, you'll have a lot of these and you won't have to worry about it anymore. As you can see, a lot of the MK7 Blast Tech weapon mods, they translate at a crazy rate. So, and they come in 10 full pieces every shipment. So not an issue with the transistors. And then for these, I lock all the other pieces. Okay. You go in here, after you buy them, or no, you click on the full piece after you have bought in the salvage, or I think it's called the salvage, right? And then you craft, right? And you just craft them like this. And then you add them to just like that. So it's hard to explain some of the steps in words, but I hope if you were following along with the pictures, you see that these are not an issue. Okay, so going back over to the spreadsheet. So that's why I assigned zeros to all these pieces. And then the signal data is what the shipment value would be. Okay, so all that being said, this is the total value, the total pieces, amount of pieces that it would take you. So if you are a person that just like, I need this character today, I'm going to spend crystals to buy everything that I need. I'm going over here, I'm buying the treasuries. It's going to take you $160 worth of crystals to go ahead and get the same value that you could for $15. But a lot of us, I think most of us, dare I say, none of us are in that position. Nobody is going and spending, you know, buying as many shards as we want right now. You couldn't even buy all the shards if you wanted to right now, because you'd have to wait for shipments to refresh. So you would necessarily have to wait for it. It's not even possible to do that with this much money. So it's kind of like a weird inflated value, right? Because I mean, we should be looking at this as zero, most likely, because again, you couldn't buy the shards even if you wanted to. But as you can see, that's like half the value. Drops down to $80 worth of stuff. Okay, so if we look at the weight value, and this is waiting however long it takes you to farm the shards basically and farm the gear, that could vary from person to person. I don't know what you're farming daily. I don't know what you're taking advantage of as far as events go, but assuming you had to buy the signal data, because even if you spent the signal data on something else, right, you would have to get more signal data. And if you spent signal data on that thing right away, you'd have to wait to get the other signal data, right? So you're getting about $17 in signal data, assuming you buy treasuries. You're getting about $17 in signal data. So that's not absolutely terrible. If you're the type of person that buys signal data with crystals that you purchased with cash, then this is probably an okay deal for you, assuming you don't have the character reliced already. if you already reliced a couple levels, then the value of this goes down, right? But if you need all 5 relic levels on that character, then there's potentially some value here. So after all that being said, we know that it's a little bit worth it if you're gonna buy, if you're this type of player. If you're the type of player that would buy signal data, then it's worth it. If you're not the type of player that would buy signal data, then it's not worth it. Ultimately, if you're the type of person that just wails and would buy anything right when you want it and you want it all the time, then sure, this is a great value for you. So now let's get into the harder part to explain, which is the shards part, because the shards value varies depending on which character you're going for, and the analysis changes depending on how badly you need the character. So we'll go back over to the game and let's take a look at the characters that you can buy. Okay. Where is it? All right, the Separatist one. You got the Geonosians and you got the droids that go with General Grievous, essentially. The ultimate question we're asking here is, should I expedite this farm? Should I hurry up and get it now? I don't know what these characters, what any one of these characters could provide to you that would be a good, huge increase to your roster. So the droids are somewhat usable in with a General Grievous team, maybe in an Admiral Trench team, but neither of those teams are going to do much for you in terms of win rate. They're not going to substantially change the game for you. So one character within that team is also not going to do that. Essentially what you would be doing is just saying, hey, I know I'm going to buy these, I'm going to eventually upgrade these characters, and if I buy this token, then I don't have to worry about doing that. When I get to the point that I would farm these characters, I can just go ahead and spend that on something else, right? So that's one aspect of it. The question, if you're like in the middle of the farm right now, say you're for stop, a lot of people don't have stop even in the middle game. If you're like, I'm farming him right now and I don't have him all the way sharded up, I don't have all the shards for him, then maybe this is a good deal, because stop requires high cantina energy nodes in order to farm his shards. Now he is accelerated, so you're gonna farm it less overall, but that's still cantina energy, right? So if you're spending cantina energy to go ahead and get those shards, well, and you're okay with spending, it might be better to spend that rather than do this farm for the shards, let alone all the signal data you would get, right? So if you're just like, I am a completionist and I need all the characters unlocked, then this is an option. Then I'd say do it. This is the mentality I had when I bought the Jawa Lightspeed bundles, right? Or I bought the Geonosian Lightspeed bundles. I said eventually I want all characters to be at relics, so I'm gonna go ahead and farm. I'm gonna go ahead and buy this Lightspeed bundle because I don't want to waste cantina energy that I normally would trying to get their signal data for them up to par. I'll buy this really cheap. That'll be taken care of at Relic 5 or Relic 3 or whatever. And then I'll go ahead and use the signal data that I would normally obtain for characters that I actually want to use. Because that's ultimately the question is like, okay, you could relic a character, but would you relic this character right now? Or would you wait till the end when you have nothing to farm, right? So even though Jawas were coming at the end of my farm, I still found value in getting those characters to relics because of the signal data. You know, it was only $10 or $15 for those, for all 5 characters. This is $15 for one character though. So that's something you got to take into account too. Now, they did have the Geonosian Hype Lightspeed bundle. I don't know, I haven't been tracking when those come back, but if the Geonosian Lightspeed bundle comes back, then you could get all 5 of these for some price rather than $15 for one. So consider that how you will. But there's other characters in here, say something like, look at B2 Battle Droid and where you get B2 Battle Droid shards. Well, that's another Cantina energy, but you shouldn't be doing it with Cantina energy, you should be doing it with MK1. So because it costs MK1 tokens, this is incredibly cheap to get his shards. So the shards I would value at 0 for him, whereas Stap, because it's Cantina related, it's not showing me the, there you go. So because it's Cantina required, the value of these shards are way more expensive, right? So they actually have crystal value that you would need to consider, because if you're not farming shards here, you can be farming more signal data. And we already said, according to the chart, that signal data has a crystal value, right? So click into each of those characters and you'll have to determine whether or not that works for you, okay? And again, this is separatist only. Now, when we go ahead and look at the tank one, we have kind of similar issues. Whereas that will help you fill out a complete a team. There's at least 2 teams there. A lot of these characters don't fill out any team. So like Jedi Knight Guardian isn't going to be used on any team. So there's no reason to even bother getting this character to Relic 5. I still have it at Relic 1, right? And there's no reason to bother with the shards because you get 10 of them at a time. You only need to buy this pack 33 times. If that, because over the course of your life using bronziums, buying bronziums, these free bronzium data cards, whoops, I had the spreadsheet on. All right, so hold on, let's go back, look at the tank, look at what I'm talking about. Okay, go to the tank, Jedi Knight Guardian, this character, not worth it. Look at the shards, they are in the Cantina Battle store. So you get these tokens for free, and you can buy 10 shards at a time, and you get them from bronzium data cards. So the shards aren't worth anything, the character's not useful in anything. So if you're buying it for that, it's not worth it. Right? A lot of these characters are in that boat. This character's not really used. The Chief Nebbit isn't really used. It's Clone Wars Chewbacca sadly isn't used for anything. Gamorrean Guard isn't really used. He is a requirement though, so that gives him a little bit more value. If you're trying to get Jabba right now, then maybe that there's a reason to go ahead and spend the token to get Gamorrean Guard, but you only need him at Relic 3, not Relic 5, right? So Phoenix could be used to unlock like Thrawn, but I don't think you really need that either. Like even if you get it, it's not going to affect your overall gameplay. It's just a question of whether or not you'll get it over time. And some of these characters, like the Geonosians, are in hyperspeed bundles, or not hyperspeed, lightspeed bundles. So I think Ger Zeb is usually in that Phoenix Lightspeed bundle. Same thing with, that's why I have them at Relic 3. I didn't do this intentionally. They came all in a packet Relic 3. Same with the Ewoks, right? So something to consider, that you might be able to get more of these characters for that same $15 price tag that one of these tokens is. And you know, I think it's telling too that none of these characters I have at Relic 5. I just don't get use out of these characters that I've needed to take them up to Relic 5. So I can't imagine many people do either, honestly. So that's just something to consider. But there is situations where this could be a game changer for the early game. I don't know what the meta is in the early game. I have no way of kind of looking at that. So that might be something you need to figure out in terms of your GAC and where you want to be. But if these characters make a difference for you in GAC, then hey, maybe it is a little bit more worth it to gear that character up, right? But overall, I think these things do provide a decent value if you can find a character like Stap, going back to the other one, right here. If you can find a character like this where you want them in your roster, you want them for whatever reason, you're a completionist, and you would have to spend Cantina energy to do them otherwise, I think that makes sense to go ahead and spend the $15 if you're a spender. If you're not, then this is definitely not a good value. If you're somebody who's free to play, you don't even have to worry about this. But on most of these characters, when we look at them, you're not gonna need to get them to Relic 5. There's no use in having them at Relic 5. And the shards, well, this is another bad example. This is a Cantina one, but half as expensive as Stab. Let me go ahead and see if I can find, yeah, B2, right? Most of the characters on these lists are going to be characters that you can get shards for relatively cheap. Basically nothing else to spend that currency on except shards. So you should fill out the shards. And in that case, the cantina is not really providing you, or the signal data is not really providing you enough value to go ahead and spend $15 on it, I think. So look at the characters. If you can only get them by farming cantina nodes, then there's a good chance that it's a solid deal. It's a little bit worth it as long as you want to be a completionist. And there's no way that you can spend that $15 otherwise to help out your account more. So you also have to weigh that $15 could be used to get something else, right? Because if we're just comparing it to crystals, we go back in here, and if you were not going to farm that character for years, then maybe it doesn't even matter at all. And you could be spending, let's see, what's in the weekly shipments, right? You could be spending that crystals on mods. Not that I recommend that, that's not what I'm saying, but you could be spending it on new marquees to get more tiers of the marquee. Brutus just came out yesterday, right? You could be spending it on signal data to get more relics that you currently need, right? So if that $15 could be used other ways to expedite your account more, then it's probably worth letting that character wait until the end to be farmed anyway, even if it is stab, right? So all in all, there is a niche case for it, but on balance, I think for the most part, players shouldn't be getting this unless they just don't care that much about money. They don't care about, you know, this is how they use their discretionary income, and they're okay with doing that, then sure. But absent that, I personally wouldn't go for these Lightspeed tokens in their current state with their current limited list, right? If these were newer characters, then that might be a consideration too. If the characters that were on here weren't accelerated yet, but all of these ones are from the legacy era, so all of them are accelerated. If they come out with ships, then that might be a different story, because ships are a little harder to get. Want to take a look at, I think Scion here is only hard nodes, so even if you're farming him, it's going to take a while to farm him because you can only try 5 times a day, right? So that's another example. Even if it's not Cantina, this is taking energy away from your Carbonite circuit board farm or your Chirotech farm. So again, maybe it's a little bit more useful in that case. But yeah, I think if you're not getting a good shard value out of this, then it makes it a lot less worth it at the end of the day, right? Go back over one final look at the price in just the signal data, really. About $17. So if you're somebody that buys signal data and you were already going to relic those characters, then sure, this is a good value. But if you're not, then don't at the end of the day. I know I was a little bit repetitive on that, but different considerations for different folks. Okay. And also I want to go ahead and end this by showing you the different prices, because that's if you buy $100 packs of crystals. If you're not somebody who buys $100 packs of crystals, then the value that you're getting out of this is a little bit more, right? Because normally you're not going to be able to buy signal data at the same price somebody buys it for $100 packs, right? So if you're just somebody that spends $5 in this game, well, this looks like an even better deal, but it gets worse as you go up in terms of how much you spend normally, right? Okay, that's all. I hope this was a decent analysis that helped you out in some way. Comment down below if you have other questions about it, and I'll try to answer those as well. And go ahead and hit that like button if you got usefulness out of this video. Hit the subscribe button for more content like this, and hit the notification bell so you know when it all goes live. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.